So thank you so much for doing our presentation tonight. Let's see, I'm going to turn off. So welcome everyone to our April Friends of Shades Creek meeting. This is one of our regularly scheduled meetings, and of course during COVID we are doing it virtually with the help of Zoom. And we'll introduce Jason in just a minute, but I want to say something about our next meeting will be May 1. We usually meet on the second Thursday of the month, but we'll have our meeting this year, May 1, and that's on a Saturday actually. And we're going to have it at Sims Garden, and you'll get more details about how to get there. That's in Homewood though, it's near Homewood Middle School. And Amy Milam has gotten Grumpy the gardener to come talk to us about gardening and just all kinds of different things. And you can talk to her about things that are going on at Sims Garden, because they have several things going on there with composting and planting and water issues. So it should be an interesting meeting.
They're developing a new master plan too. Involves stormwater runoff and retention and green infrastructure. So should be some very relevant topics for Friends of Shades Creek.
Thanks, Henry. And then the second thing I want to mention is we have our creek cleanup going on right now. It's virtual. And so what you need to do is just apply to me or to Henry that you would like to do a cleanup. And we prefer people to do it in pairs or like in threes, but we're not having a big gathering to start. What you do is you find the people that you want to do the cleanup with. You pick an area that you want to clean up and then get with us, and you get to pick the date and the time. So you get you get to choose whatever you want to do, and just let us know. And then we'll provide you with some trash bags, gloves, water, and some little backpacks if you want them, and information. And then all you have to do is send us some pictures so we can place them on the website. So that's what's going on with our cleanup. And I hope we'll get some participants to help out with our spring cleanup this year. We've got the City of Homewood Beautification Board. They're thinking about helping out this year too. So we'll see how that works out. And I'm going to turn it over to Henry, and Henry, you can make your announcement and introduce Jason.
Great, thank you, Michelle. We've got a special guest tonight, Ben Wegleitner, who is the new Sustainability Director with the Cahaba River Society. And just ask him to say a few words about his aspirations for his new position. He's taken Randy Haddock's place when Randy retired this spring. So we have high expectations. So
let's not tell people that I'm taking Randy's place. I will be, yeah, those are big shoes to fill, Randy Haddock. But thank you, Henry and Michelle, for welcoming me. As Henry said, I'm Ben Wegleitner. I am new to the Birmingham area. We moved down here for my wife's job. She is a postdoctoral candidate. She's an evolutionary biologist, but I will be working as the River Sustainability Director. I come from a stormwater specialist background, previously worked in Indiana stormwater for an MS4 and for a municipality. In my new role, I'm hoping to carry on the collaborative spirit of Cahaba River Society, working with the municipalities, with the county, and with developers to implement green infrastructure practices, mimic natural systems in new development and redevelopment, to hopefully infiltrate some of this stormwater to keep it from going into the beautiful creeks and rivers that y'all have down here. So I'm looking forward to getting started. I'm still getting my bearings here in Birmingham, but I appreciate all the warm welcomes of everyone who's reached out, and I'm happy to see all this great watershed by river. If anyone ever wants to get out with me and give me a tour, I'm I'm available. Thank
Ben,
you.
we like to remind everyone that Shades Creek is the biggest tributary of the Cahaba River, and the best thing we can do to keep the Cahaba healthy is to keep Shades Creek healthy. And you have at least 3 board members from the Cahaba River Society on here tonight. So
Wonderful.
Really appreciate you being here.
Great.
Yes, we do. Thank you. And you are going to fill a very needed area of what's needed in this area. So thank you for being here tonight and letting us see your very happy face.
Great. Thank you.
And Michelle is former president of the board.
Wow.
So.
Wonderful.
All right,
Are
Henry.
we ready to move on, Michelle?
Yeah, let's introduce our presentation speaker for tonight and let him get started.
Sure. Jason Throneberry is no stranger to us. He's been working on the Cahaba River study for the past several years through the Nature Conservancy, and he may tell us a little update on that tonight. And he's made great progress over the last several years. And we had a program on this earlier this year, or maybe late 2019. I don't remember exactly. But his main topic tonight is going to be a much larger project. You know, Shades Creek is a tributary of the Cahaba. The Cahaba is a major tributary of the Alabama River. And this project goes beyond Shades Creek and the Cahaba to the Alabama and Mobile Bay. The Army Corps of Engineers has committed to funding a 3-year study. And it's actually coming available a full year earlier than planned. And that is to examine the feasibility of ecologically reconnecting the Alabama and Cahaba Rivers to the Gulf of Mexico with a fish passage project to allow fish to migrate from Mobile Bay to the Cahaba River and maybe even to Shades Creek. So maybe we'll be seeing 6-foot sturgeons swimming in Shades Creek after this is all over. It's an exciting project, and the Nature Conservancy has been working on it for years, and it could culminate in what could be the most biologically significant reconnection project in the history of the country. So this is huge, and we were just thrilled that it's getting some traction. So the reconnecting the Cahaba River, Mobile Bay, and the Gulf of Mexico will be an incredible accomplishment. And there's some species that the very existence of them is going to depend on this project. So Jason's here to fill us in and update it and give us some details on it. So Jason, thanks for being here. Looking forward to your program.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me. And Henry just did my whole presentation for me. So we don't even have to do it. First of all, thanks everybody for being here. I'm Jason Throneberry. I'm the director of Freshwater for the Nature Conservancy here in Alabama. I've been on for about 4 years now. It's been a steep learning curve, but there was already a lot of things in motion when I got here. And tonight we'll talk about some of that. First of all, I do want to update on the Shades Creek Watershed Management Plan, which is very pertinent to you. So we have worked with Goodman, Mills, and Kaywood for about the past year and a half or so. They sent me the final drafts of all the chapters last week to review. So we'll review that. It'll be vetted through multiple people for their review as well. And then we will get back with GMC, and hopefully they will have a finished product sometime midsummer is kind of the timeline now. It's been kind of put back due to current circumstances and all that, but we are moving forward. And for those of you who don't know, that would basically, they're working with ADEM to make a management plan that fits all of their criteria. So they could drive federal dollars through that program from EPA into restoration and everything on Shades Creek. So quick update there. And now I guess I'll get to the major presentation. Any quick questions on the Shades Creek? Okay, well, I'll move on. So tonight I'm going to be talking to you about a project that's been a long time coming. It's been talked about for multiple decades at this point. So we are trying to work with the Corps to establish the feasibility of putting fish passage at Claiborne and Miller's Ferry locks and dams on the Alabama River. So for the past over a decade, there has been conservation locking efforts put in forth by the Corps and TNC. And due to current research that has gone in and kind of looked at the efficacy of all that, there has been very little fish passage. So at Claiborne Dam, there is some fish passage. That is likely, we think, due to the associated spillway with that dam. So that dam is also made to be inundated at high flows. So when it floods, that dam goes underwater, and fish could conceivably pass up and down on the floodplain around that structure and up. So we have seen a little bit of movement there, but Miller's Ferry, which is the next dam upstream, there's only been two fish that were tagged of hundreds to pass upstream of that structure. So that's a problem. And that's kind of the introduction here. Let me get to the right screen so I can click on it. So just for your reference, you have a map of the Alabama River from Montgomery down, and of course the Cahaba River coming in from the north. So Claiborne Lock and Dam is about river mile 73 in the system, and Miller's Ferry is about river mile 133. The mouth of Cahaba is upstream of that at about river mile 190 or so. And you can see it there by the arrows. So just to get you what we're looking at. So now let's talk about the problem with all this. So in the 60s, 70s, they built these dams. And of course, the historic migratory corridor for fish, everything else that uses fish as hosts, such as your freshwater mussels, was pretty much closed. Like I said, current research has shown that conservation locking efforts have not been very successful down there, even though they were done and continue to be done if there's money and time. As you know, like I said, the Cahaba connects in above Miller's Ferry and used to have bukus of migratory species moving up and into it to spawn, to be a host for mussels, other things, but that has been severely impacted, and that's not happening. So these fish are not making it from the bay of the Gulf of Mexico up to the Alabama River, and then even up to the Cahaba, which historically happened. And what the bottom line is that the system has become so altered and degraded that these corridors are functionally closed and not working anymore. So as I said, this is all connected to Cahaba. This is our motive behind this. We want to see fish and other things to be able to move up and down the system from the Gulf all the way to the Cahaba as freely as possible in this environment. So basically, isolated species could definitely move up and down. This is a priority not only at the local TNC level in Alabama, but also the Southern Division and at the Gulf Program Division. So we have lots of support for this. This has been looked at for a long time, as I said. This is also a priority for our state, federal, and NGO partners. So we have, if you're not aware, we have a group in Alabama called the Alabama Rivers and Streams Network. This has been identified on their radar as the pie in the sky plan for a long time. And a lot of those people talk to me daily regarding this study. I have my fish passage team, which entails all those people as well. So we have lots of support on that end. And what it boils down to is anything we can get done on this river system is better than what's happening now, because it's very little. So just some pictures to kind of illustrate what's going on. You see a young man there with a very big sturgeon. That sturgeon was caught in the Cahaba River whenever that picture was taken. And now you have this. That's Miller's Ferry Dam right there. That's the associated spillway. So conceivably during a big flood, you can see water coming over the spillway. Maybe that sturgeon could get up that and around it to its spawning grounds. But in this current situation, probably not. So it's not just sturgeon we're looking at. These are some of the more showy species. We have the southeastern bluesucker there in the left hand of your screen. We have Alabama shad on top. We have striped mullet in the middle there. They used to run up the Cahaba historically. They even had festivals around this fish and its migratory runs. Everybody loves mullet, that's for sure. You have stuff like the American eel there in the bottom right, and then you have mussels who are also impacted by this. So the elephant ear mussel, there's a population of elephant ear mussels in the Cahaba River that most of the individuals are over 30 years old. And that tells us that there's been basically zero recruitment for that mussel species in that length of time. So that indicates lack of host fish for that species. So hopefully this could also help those. So that brings us to where we are today. So we have been in conversation with the Corps of Engineers for a little over a year, trying to get a feasibility started, a feasibility study started for this. So we got it. It was appropriated this year, as Henry said, 1 year ahead of time. We were ready, I guess, but we weren't really ready. And it came about and they said, okay, it's go time. And that's not usually how it works, working with the Corps, but it happened this time. So here we are. So basically now the Corps of Engineers is operating on what they call the rule of three. So basically they have $3 million total, and that's not all $3 million from the Corps, that's half and half. So the Nature Conservancy is the local non-federal sponsor for this project. And that means we are responsible for half of whatever the Corps spends. So it's a 1-to-1, but that total cost cannot go over $3 million. So basically 1.5 million and 1.5 million will be total cost for either entity. We have 3 years to complete the study. I've been involved with feasibility studies before this rule came into play, that of course we're scientists, we want more data. I've seen these studies go on for 10 plus years and still not, some of them are not done. So this rule of three is a really good light in that aspect. It actually pushes us towards a very timely goal. And so $3 million, 3 years, and it has to go, every decision that's made has to be vetted through 3 tiers of Corps oversight. So that's the local division, which is the Mobile district, the divisional level, which is the South Atlantic, and then all the way up to the federal top level. So ultimately, like I said, TNC and partners are on the hook for about $1.5 million at this point. So what's this mean? What's this feasibility study mean? First of all, it means lots of meetings, lots of in-person meetings with the Corps of Engineers, all of our stakeholders that will be in this process. That's going to take up most of the time with scoping and figuring out the implementation schedule, what alternatives we're going to look at, all of that. So we're going to have to figure that out. But there's also going to be lots of fun times. We're going to get to go out and actually do some research on the fish assemblage, the mussel assemblage, and see what's there, get a current snapshot in time on both the lower Alabama and lower Cahaba Rivers, and get a snapshot in time. So that's a very exciting part as well. So here's what we're doing right now. We are working through internally, TNC is working through contracts and legal agreements. We have to make sure everything is as scheduled for what we're on the hook for, what we hope our partners will do, and what the Corps is also supposed to do. Then we will develop a scope of work. And in that scope of work, after that is established, we will look at different alternatives for fish passage. So we have to evaluate those on both economic and ecological value. So each alternative will be looked at in those 2 lights, among other things, but those are the main 2. And then after we have those in order, we will do research to see which one is more feasible, more cost feasible, more ecologically good. And then we will prioritize them. And then of course, at the end, the ultimate goal is to have a preferred alternative for fish passage. We don't know what that's going to be. We don't even know what the alternatives are yet, But at the end of the 3 years, we will have that preferred alternative that is put forth by the Corps. So these are just some examples of some of the alternatives. Like I said, I've been involved in these in the past, and these are all hypothetical, but usually this is what goes on in these feasibility studies. So number one there in your right-hand corner would be basically do nothing. Business as usual, leave the dams as they are, and current situation is still there. That's always an option. They have to look at that and see what the economic value, what the ecological value of that is. Number two, like it could be something like a fish ladder where fish can move around the dam at the dam site. Number three, we could dig a bypass around the dams, and which would be inundated at certain elevation when the water got to a certain level that would have historically cued, the right amount of flow for these fish to move up. That could possibly be an alternative as well. And then number four here, that's the direct opposite of number one. So number one is do nothing, and number four would be maybe complete dam removal. That's not something we're pushing for, but it will probably be one of the alternatives looked at because they have to go from one extreme to the other. And then in the upper left, you kind of have a prioritization matrix. This is not what the Corps uses. This is just kind of the example of how they would evaluate these alternatives, against each other and come up with the preferred. So, like I said, they have to summarize everything related to every alternative. They have to apply the criteria. They have to involve all the stakeholders before they make a decision to get their preferred opinion as well. And then at the end, hopefully we can all agree upon a preferred alternative for the project. So just another pick series of some of the more photogenic critters that live down there. And I guess that's it. That seemed very short to me, but I would gladly take any questions that anybody may have.
All right, do we have some questions out there for Jason?
Sure. Who are the some of the stakeholders that I guess could stand to lose economically if the dams are substantially altered? Say, people who do or that the flow schedules are altered. Like I know people who set up whitewater rafting outside of dams or float trips, stuff like that.
Okay, well, right now, so these dams were built in the name of economics and to hopefully increase the economic potential for middle Alabama. So barge traffic, all that stuff. To date, I mean, the passages in these locks and dams for commercial activity right now is very null. It's almost nothing. So very, very little traffic pertaining to that. To the whitewater, I'm a whitewater enthusiast, so I would love it if we could incorporate whatever into that. But currently there are no whitewater operations or anything else. Now there are people who have what is now lake reservoir front property that could potentially lose some water. And those people will be reached out to. But basically the stakeholders they will have public meetings and they will be at the local level. So they'll be the closest towns to the dams, the people that are going to be impacted by whatever activity they choose. They will be involved. They can be involved. And of course, all of our state, federal, and NGO partners will be involved as well.
So, Jason, you showed that bypass out in the floodplain going around, and it had several water level control structures, which seem like they might be an impediment also. Maybe not as big a one, but I'm sure those are structured or built so that they would not be impediment. But I think one of the problems that they've had, from what I understand, with the trying to lock fish through, is that the fish don't go into the lock in order to be raised or lowered, and because of noise or whatever the reason is. So what do you have any experience or any knowledge about a bypass like that, what gets the fish to use the bypass. It might be just as frightening to them and shallower water that they're not used to or may not want to go into.
Yeah. Yep, that's a great question. So we don't know the answer to that. That first of all, that drawing was just a hypothetical snapshot. I did not draw it. That was just showing a general bypass. There probably would have to be well, maybe not. There could be a pumping mechanism to give those Q flows, or hopefully it would inundate at those critical periods during the spring and the fall when fish were actively moving, and hopefully our rainfall regime would be like usual and our flow regime would be usual, and those fish would get those cues. I have had experience in the past. So I worked on the Cache River. So there was basically 3 lower meanders of the Cache River, which connects to the White River in Arkansas and then flows down to the Arkansas Mississippi complex. They had channelized it. So they had plugged the oxbows and straightened the river. So I was part of the feasibility study. I wasn't working for the organization who did it, but I was part of that feasibility study team. I worked for the state of Arkansas then. But they successfully they basically did the opposite. They put plugs in the channel that would be overtopped only at a certain flow and opened up the old meanders again. And the species assemblage got right back to what it should be. I hope that answered your question.
Jason, we have some questions in the chat line. And
Sure.
One of them, this is from Kristen. What endangered species might benefit from removal or by a fish ladder bypass system?
Well, anything, first of all, they could handle a little current. You have to be able to run upstream. You have to be able to go through heavy current, usually in fish ladders. Sturgeon could probably make it, though they're more of a benthic species. They're usually on the bottom and not in the water column. Alabama shad could probably make it through a fish ladder. Southeastern blue suckers could definitely make it through a fish ladder. They're like little bullets in the water. American eels have showed great success going through fish ladders. And that's just a few.
Okay, let's see. And are anglers identified as stakeholders?
Yes, they are, most certainly. So most of the lockages that happen these days are due to bass fishermen who want to take their bass boats up and down, or cat fishermen or whatever. Those are the main users of the dam at this point. So yes, they will have to be involved. And it's going to change their fishery. Who knows, for good, for bad, but something's going to change. If you do something like this, something's going to change.
Are they generally in favor or opposed to some kind of a program?
We don't know yet. Some folks would rather fish a free-flowing moving river, and some folks would rather fish a reservoir. That's just all taste. But no, we don't know. We have not done any of this study yet. This is we haven't even signed the documents. We sign the documents tomorrow, actually, to get it finalized. So this is all going to happen in that stakeholder feasibility study process.
I don't know if it can be a part of the study or not, but it seems like it should be. And that is, once they got past the barricade or the, whatever is done to get them to be able to go up and downstream, if they go upstream and they don't find a habitat that's conducive or that works for them, then all of this doesn't make any sense or doesn't work. So I would think that really needs to be looked at also in the study, because you can say, well, the habitat up in the Cahaba River, but are those fish going to make it in one season or so that far, depending upon the type of fish. So I think really the habitats upstream have to be looked at to see whether it's even going to work for the fish once they get up there.
I totally agree with you. Hopefully habitat surveys will be a part of this. Again, we're going to push for that, but It's all at the court's discretion. We will bring that up. That will be brought up by Fish and Wildlife Service. That'll be brought up by DCNR, ADM, everything. So it's not only habitat, but habitat quality as far as water quantity and quality go associated with that. So hopefully there'll be, I mean, this is just me thinking out loud, all hypothetical, but there's probably going to be a lot of down imaging sonar studies and sediment studies on the bottom to see what's there and to see what should be there and compare it. But yes, I totally agree.
Another question we have, this is from Paul. Are there any ballpark estimates on the cost of bypass options?
No, but I can tell you it's going to be the most expensive option. It's going to be the most expensive of all the alternatives. So you're looking at anywhere from 10 to $30 million ish. And this is just a feasibility study to look at what alternative would be best. That's not saying it's going to happen after this study's done. Who knows where it goes? If we get federal appropriation to do such, then that would be great. But it's going to take a lot of checkbooks to do the bypass. That's for sure.
And
Which brings up the issue of whether the same studies are being done or looked at or possibilities other places around the Southeast, and whether this would be competing for similar kinds of needs for removal or, for fish passage in the other parts of the Southeast.
And it will be directly in competition with those for sure. But like Henry said earlier, this could be the most ecologically significant river restoration in the southeastern United States, if not the whole North America. I mean, this would be reconnecting the Gulf of Mexico to the most diverse river we have. So pretty solid game there.
And Jason, I have another question here. To what extent, if any, would Alabama Power be involved?
Well, hopefully they'll be involved. We want everybody to be involved. We have not had those discussions yet with them, but hopefully they can be involved. They will definitely be at the table because we're going to be potentially working at one of their hydro dams. So they will be involved in the whole, the decision-making process. So they'll be at the table.
How much electricity is generated at the dams? Is it a lot?
No, very, very little in the grand scheme of things.
Jason, I have a question. Ecotourism is an increasingly big deal. And are there examples of people capitalizing on fish ladders and fish runs and, casting it as a positive for the state in that way, not just environmental way?
Yeah, so there are recreational opportunities, especially with, I don't know about fish ladders or any of that with the recreational opportunities, but bypass channels, yes, there are definitely recreational opportunities. There could be whitewater at certain flows. There could be other things at certain flows. But yes, it would definitely increase the recreational opportunity.
I have another question here. What are mechanisms for dealing with silt when dams are removed?
Well, usually we do a sediment analysis. First of all, how much is above the dam and how much is going to go down if you remove or jeopardize one part of a dam. But we know that, dams are sediment catchments. So there is going to be excess sediment behind that dam that should have moved down the system a long time ago. That's not saying that the downstream system is sediment starved by any means. We have other mechanisms for putting extra sediment into the rivers. So, but usually there's a sediment study done, and I really defer to the experts on that. I'm not a sediment hydrologist and don't know that flow, but I do know that there's decades of sediment behind those dams that is probably, if it's not passed at high flows because it churns off the bottom, then it's still there.
I believe I've learned in the past that removal like that or changes like that help to benefit the Gulf of Mexico itself, because a lot of the trees and leaves and material that used to wash down from the middle part of Alabama to the Gulf and provide material for the creatures there and nutrients is no longer going there because it's stopped by the dams. So that would be a beneficial thing on the other side, I think, going the other direction, going downstream.
It would definitely increase your nutrient flow, for better or worse. Who knows? But it would definitely increase that.
Jason, would you mind just quickly summarizing the relationship between migratory fish and mussels? There may be people who don't understand how that works.
Sure. So mussels use certain fish species as host fish. So basically, the fish comes to the mussel has a display out that looks like a prey item, or otherwise the fish grabs on. The mussel then grabs onto the fish and injects all of its babies, Glaucidia, into the gills of the fish. The fish swim up or downstream, and once those Glaucidia or baby mussels get big enough, they drop off, and that's where they live. So mussels are very sessile creatures, meaning they don't move a whole lot. So that is their disbursement mechanism. That's how they sustain their populations over their range. So they really rely on that, not only for reproduction, but for expansion of their range if the habitat's available.
And can you talk a little bit about the importance of mussels in our river systems and how, and maybe the threat of losing some of the most important species?
Sure. So first of all, biodiversity is biodiversity. Everything has an inherent good in living. So first of all, that's one thing. We don't want to lose any species, and the biodiversity really keeps things moving here in Alabama. Second of all, mussels, first of all, are indicator species. They give us a really quick, good snapshot into habitat quality, water quality, the presence of certain fish, host fish, and there are filters. There are biological filters. They are what filter our water. They keep our water quality good. So they take that water in, they eat all the stuff they want, and they put it out. So they really reduce nutrients, and they just have so many benefits otherwise.
All right. We have a question here. Which organizations will be contributing biologists to do the biological aspects of the study?
It'll be everybody. So it'll be all the state folks. We have had contact with them. Everybody's on board. It'll be lots of NGOs, so lots of local conservation groups, some of which are on the phone, and us and whomever other private people want to get involved. But it'll be the core, of course, Fish and Wildlife Service, DCNR, Geological Survey, ADM, and if I missed one, I missed one, but everybody's on board that we've talked to.
If there's biologists like at Stanford or UAB or something like that, is it possible for them to get on board with the study, and how would they do that?
Yeah, sure it is. Now's the time. Shoot me an email, give me a call. Please feel free to share my information, Michelle or Henry, with everyone on the call. They can gladly email me or call me anytime. But now's the time. If you want to be on the ground level of this and you have viable information and want to come forth with it, that would be great. We need everybody. We can't have everybody, but we'd love to see the interest, and anything helps.
Jason, we have a question. Why has the Corps of Engineers moved so quickly on this when they may have not on other projects?
Well, first we were really pushing it. We're really pesky when it comes to something we like. So we've been the squeaky wheel. But it has been, so for the Corps of Engineers, these two dams, locks and dams, are considered tier 3 locks and dams, which means they're the bottom of the list. They get the least money. They're not really doing anything at this point. So they're the bottom, kind of the bottom tier of locks and dams. Like I said, we came to them with this a little over a year ago, and basically we talked to everybody we could and got backing from our federal, state, and NGO partners, of course, to say the same thing. And the Alabama Rivers and Streams Network actually called the colonel of the Mobile district and had a discussion and introduced this project, and then subsequently had many briefings with his underlings or under people below him. And it's just moved at a very heightened pace. We were very surprised. We were not expecting federal appropriation this year, but we got it. So here we are.
Jason, do you have out of the different systems that you put up there, do you have a favorite one that you hope it will be, or can you say anything for that about that?
I mean, no, it's all at the discretion of the study. I can say what I like. I like the idea of a bypass channel that mimics natural channel conditions. I don't know if that's possible. That's hopefully something that's going to be looked at. I personally like that. Fish ladders are conducive in certain environments with certain species. I don't really think that's going to pass the fish that we want to pass, at least not the whole suite of fish that we want to pass. But even the ideas of fish elevators have been thrown out already. So I don't know. I have my favorite. I don't want to dig a channel however many miles long, but if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
So I've got a comment here. So removing these dams could be a big money saver for USACE. Is that true?
Yes, it should. So each of those dams, it costs about $20 million to do annual operation and maintenance on those locks and dams. So that's just money that's just going away at this point. So if we can do whatever we do for less than 1 year of operation and maintenance, maybe it'll be a golden egg for them.
And let's see, I've got a comment here. A lot of the upper Cahaba drainage is cut off by the dam at 280, which shuts upper Little Cahaba water up the main Cahaba to the water pumping station. Should there be some parallel effort to bypass that dam?
I don't think it will be parallel. That's been known for a long time. That is the major dam on the Cahaba. That's a tough one. That has drinking water and everything else associated with it. So I don't know. That's not my bag at this point.
You're just concerned about these other two dams first and get past those.
Right.
And I do have a comment, agreed, go for the total removal. That's the comment from one of our participants tonight.
Yeah. I will hold my enthusiasm.
I also have a paper. I've got a link for a short paper on different bypass methods. And this is from David Butler. David, would you like to say something about that? Just summarize some of those different methods?
No, I was just basically putting it up there for information that people could read about some of the different options and challenges with different bypass methods.
Okay. Well, I will send that out later after the program is over. I've got the link copied down. All right. What other questions do we have for Jason? Oh, surely we have some more questions. Everybody knows about fish passage, right?
Those were pretty good questions. Y'all came from all angles. It was good. It was good.
And Ben, since you're on this, do you have any experience with dam removal or anything regarding this?
Not technical experience, no. Only the biodiversity conservation implications of dam removal. So I'm trying to think of an instance where I've either been a part of the process or seen it done, and I can't think of anything specific as far as dam removal. I have a little more experience in the sediment realm, but nothing of what sits behind dams, mostly contaminated sediment. So I wouldn't expect, and Jason, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I wouldn't expect a highly contaminated sediment load behind that dam other than nutrients. Probably it's not like it's a harbor for, I don't know, any harmful, super harmful toxins. Is there any mill or factory just upstream of any of those dams?
I mean, there's mill and factories upstream of both of those dams, but I don't foresee it's not going to be on the scale of like the Pigeon River and all the dioxins or anything like that. No. I don't know until they do the sediment analysis. I don't know. I don't know. I would hope not.
Yeah.
Jason, do you have any examples of that we might be able to put up there showing how something like this has been done in the past in other areas?
I could definitely link you to several places it's been done and successful. Can I provide those links to you and you just spread them and just spread them widely?
Yes.
But yes, there's multiple examples. I mean, from the Northeast all the way to the West, these projects have been very, very successful. From salmonid species like your trout and your salmon to paddlefish and American eels and sturgeon. These are all successful projects and in very different habitats. So it's completely doable. We just have to convince somebody that it's doable and we need to do it.
And it's worth the money.
Definitely worth the money. Cheaper than the alternative, right?
Yeah. It sounds like it. It sounds like it could save money in the future. So that $20 million, that was an annual expense, right?
Yes.
How many people are we talking about that live on this waterfront property? Is it like a proper lake? Are we talking like a community, or is it on the order of dozens?
I don't know, to tell you the truth. I would say not over the scale of hundreds. I mean, it's a pretty, and they're mostly large landowners. But they do love their reservoir front property. They built their big houses or small houses or shanties or whatever there for a reason. They love it. So
here's somebody, I recommend the film Damnation.
I will gladly watch it just because of the title.
All right. Do we have any other questions out there for Jason before we let him go?
This was a question related to his first thing that he was talking about, the watershed plan for Shades Creek. I would hope that you include people to review it, such as Friends of Shades Creek and some local ecologists and scientists in this area. Don't know if that's in the works or not.
No, that's been the normal. So a lot of people on this call have been very involved with the process to this point, and they will receive the draft chapters as well. So.
Now, did you say the draft is ready right now, Jason?
Supposedly, I think we're lacking one chapter. And after I review all the chapters that were sent to me and that one, then I will send it out. Well, actually, GMC Stuart Blackwell will send it out.
Okay. So we'll be able to get a copy to make available on our website, I guess.
It'll be sent to you. I don't know the rules about how it's vetted from there. This is a GMC process, so I don't know. They
Okay,
will be the ones sending it to you. But yes, you will receive and all the chapters for review.
okay. All right, do we have some other comments? Questions? Concerns?
I'm concerned, a little scared too, but that's okay. I think we can do it.
What scares you the most, Jason?
Oh, working with just, I don't know, multiple different looks at things. But this is the least scared I've been going into one of these. So that's a good sign.
So will you actually be doing some of the meetings with partners and?
I'll be doing all the meetings with all the
Okay.
partners and with the Corps and doing the research. I will be fully involved. Yes.
Okay, great.
Well, as will many of our staff. So not just me, but several other people as well.
Okay, the film Damnation was mentioned, and a second person said it's a good one. And we also have a comment, tonight's meeting is very informative and very interesting program and Q&A. So I appreciate your comments about that.
And Michelle, Paul Freeman left a link. Maybe we can send that out as well.
Right, I've made a copy of that, Paul. There's 2 links on here that have been sent, and I've made copies of both of those to send out to everyone later. All right, well, if there's no more questions or comments, we'll let Jason go, but this has been great, Jason, to get an idea of what's going on and to understand what the study does and doesn't do, and the process of the whole thing. So we appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much.
Yes, my pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you,
And
Jason.
we'll be checking in with you later then.
Yes.
All right, thank you again. Bye-bye, everyone.